Hey, welcome to the Test Guild show for the week of June 20th, 2021. This show is dedicated to helping you kick off your week right with all the latest testing-related news and updates you need to know throughout the week. First up, two big pieces of news in performance testing. First one is K6 was acquired by Graffana Labs last week. Graffana says that it and K6 will work together on an integrated offering as part of Grafana's tech stack, providing a way to monitor and connect logs, metrics, and traces to diagnose app performance issues. Graffana is a big player in the observability space. I think that this points to the trend of performance testing moving really beyond the limited scope of just performance testing within a small organization within your company. And I think it's becoming more of the total shift left, shift right type of activities that a lot of software development teams are going through, and especially SRE activities as companies are moving now towards more performance engineering practices. Anytime I see companies acquire other companies, I like to see them reasoning behind it. And it looks like Grafana needed a way to add performance kind of capabilities into their portfolio. Other big news, which I think is pretty big, is in performance testing. We have Scott Moore, one of the top performance engineers I've been following for years. He's pretty much been an independent contractor for as long as I can remember. He actually just started a new gig as director of customer engineering at Tricentis. And if you don't know, Tricentis has been making big moves in performance testing. I think a few weeks ago, they actually acquired Neotis. And Scott really has been at the forefront of performance evangelism for a long time. So him going to Tricentis and Tricentis acquiring Neotis, and I think last year they acquired Flood.io. They're really trying to make a big time play in the performance space. So it gets me wondering why. And the only thing I can think of is companies don't just throw money just to spend money. It's probably a reason they're hearing from their customers, a big need for performance testing or performance engineering. So keep your eyes out for any news coming from Tricentis around performance in the next few weeks, in the next few months. I think they have a lot of things going on. And I think it's also crucial for you to really be aware of performance testing. If you're a tester, you need to know some sort of performance testing, I think, as part of your toolkit, because I think it's only going to make you more employable. And I think it's going to be critical as more and more teams are going to be expected to know not just functional automation, but going to have to know a little bit about performance testing, a little about security testing, everything that you need to do in order to deliver quality software to your customers, you're going to need to know a little bit about. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open to anything happening with performance testing. I think it's a good time to get involved if you haven't done it already. I also saw a study recently on how the web testing market is set for epic growth up until 2028 and probably even further than that. So as I mentioned, it's a great time to get involved in performance testing and performance engineering activities if you haven't already. I also saw an article by Tech Beacon that they just released last week on the top 30 automation leaders you should follow on Twitter. So if you haven't already, definitely check it out. It's a little self-promotional. I am on that list, and I actually got a lot of people follow me on Twitter. So I also think there's a lot of people on Twitter that give valuable information throughout the week that you should definitely follow as well, just to keep aware of all the things that are going on in the testing space. Also, speaking of Twitter, not sure if you saw Simone Stewart's tweet a few weeks back on how he just pushed the Selenium 4 beta out, and the new release is almost ready to be a release candidate, and all the features are now feature complete. So if you're not running your own Selenium server, 4.0 should be a drop-in upgrade. You definitely should check it out. There's a lot of great new features with Selenium 4. At Automation Guild this year, we had Simone Stewart presenting first the sneak peek ever of Selenium 4 with all the new features. And as a bonus for you watching this show, you can grab the free masterclass I'm giving away for Simone Stewart teaching Selenium 4. All you need to do to grab your free masterclass is head on over to Test Guild and just click on the free courses and start learning about all the cool features of Selenium 4, and you'll learn it all under 30 minutes. Also, I found out that Mark Winterham from Ministry of Testing is writing a book on web APIs, and it's also currently number 7 on the charts of the Manning list of bestsellers. If you head there now, I think it's still in the early versions, but what Manning does is they actually release early versions of the books, and as the author starts completing more and more chapters, you get the versions as they come up to date. And so you can definitely get your hands on this now and see what Mark has created already. Really excited about this book. I've been preaching about API testing probably since 2014. And I think right now is just been picking up more and more speed, more and more steam with API testing. If you haven't learned about API testing, this is going to be a great resource for you. Definitely check that out as well. So this is the first episode of the show. I'm trying to keep it as quick as possible. Let me know if you want it longer, shorter. Really open to suggestions on how to make the show better. I'm going to have it released every Monday morning so you get the best of the best to start your week off right with automation testing or all things automation related. So I just want to wrap things up with the segment I'm calling Actionable Automation Awesomeness. The first piece of advice comes from Kristen Giacoboni from my Automation Guild podcast on API testing using Postman.
I would say one of the most important things to do in test automation, whether it's your UI automation, your API automation, is get your developers involved. Try not to live in a vacuum. Tell them what you're doing, ask for their advice, ask for their suggestions, teach them how to do what you do. I think a lot of testers are worried about that because they're afraid they're going to work themselves out of a job, but they're not, because developers are never going to be passionate about testing like you are passionate about testing. So get them involved. They will have all kinds of great ideas like, oh, you know what? I can make a little test harness for this that will make it easier for you to do your automation. Or, you know what? I think we should organize our variables this way instead. It'll be easier for everybody. And that just makes the team just gel and just work so much faster.
And this last piece of actual advice comes from my performance and site reliability podcast episode on performance testing iOS apps using Appium and Xcode instruments with Sandeep Dinesh. Check it out.
So definitely, if you are sort of using maybe Appium or any technology, try to use this. There are other methods too by which we can get the same thing done, because I was exploring further, and recently I was working more on the web view automation, because what happens is that you might not get that sort of performance matrices from the app process. Sometimes it gets delegated to the app web view, the Apple web view which you have. So specifically that process needs to be instrumented and found out. That would definitely be a separate process. I would say a separate blog in itself. Maybe currently I'm working on it. I can't really share much details because I'm still learning, and probably whatever I have shared with my developers, they're quite happy with what they have seen. It's basically you need to use at that point of time maybe the Xcode command line by itself. Of course, in iOS, I would say it has lesser flexibility. Let's say using ADB, let's say you can say ADB top command and then collect the stats. But then they still have some information are like not really exposed or maybe advertised that well. But then they still have some things like Xcode Xcode trace, by which you can achieve the same thing. You don't, and you probably can automate. And you can attach, it's actually very neat as well. You give the process name, not really the process ID. You can give either of it and attach itself, and it will still run on the same, instruments, And so that's something which I would say probably don't probably lose hope and probably just try to do this manually. Probably listen to podcasts and talk to people. I would say ask these questions in web forums and things like that. Maybe that will definitely help, because I for sure learned a lot from some of the other other bloggers or people who actually worked on this, and that's why most of us are like really happy to share this information. And I know that this information is less, but then maybe if we try to ask that question and maybe seek help, probably maybe I can also learn a lot of new things. Similarly, a lot of people would be able to share that information.
To hear the full episodes from both Kristen and Sandeep, make sure to head on over to testguild.com and select their episode. And if you have any news or announcement you'd like me to make in the next episode, let me know. If it's anything to do with automation testing, DevOps, security testing, performance testing, anything, testing related that you would like to be featured on this show, all you need to do is drop me a line at news@testguild.com and just send me the info and links so I can have it featured in next Monday's Test Guild show. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild show. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.